Our next guest, Libby Mojica, works for the Center for Conservation Biology. She has been working with eagles since 1999. She's tracked more than 150 eagles. Can you imagine 150 eagles? She's worked in Florida. She's worked with other raptors, including Cooper's hawks, bald eagles, burrowing owls, and great egrets. She's also a new mom, and I don't know if you got a chance to see her lovely family. I think they're out enjoying the garden right now. So it's my great pleasure to introduce Libby Mojica.
Hi, well, it's wonderful to be here. Let's get this the right height for me. Really honored to be invited to speak at the symposium. I've been working with eagles for almost 15 years now in many different states up and down the East Coast, and by far this nest here in the Botanical Gardens is one of my favorites to work with. And I'm not just saying that because you guys are here listening to me. The joy and the enthusiasm that the community here at the Botanical Gardens, it's just unbelievable. And there's such a positive energy around this nest. It's just really nice to be able to work with the folks here, all the avid bird watchers, eagle watchers, but also the community, the staff at the Botanical Gardens. You guys are just fantastic to work with. So we're really honored to be a part of the partnership here, running the camera and monitoring the nest and banding the chicks. So thank you. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about your particular tracked eagles here at the Botanical Gardens, Azalea and Camellia, that Reese talked about earlier. But I also wanted to give you kind of a broader picture. So those two birds are part of a bigger study that we're doing, and those birds, the data that we're collecting, is helping us understand how eagles are using the landscape, how they're interacting with each other. Not just fun stuff that we put on the blog, but it actually is data that we're using. All right, so I didn't get the guide on how to advance this.
Use Reese's right there.
That's just a laser pointer, isn't it? But did I do that? All right, well, we'll just go with it. So I didn't see Bryan's talk last night, and we didn't coordinate at all. So I don't know how much I'm going to be duplicating from what you guys might have seen last night, but hopefully we won't cover too many of the same subjects. The bald eagle is part of the genus Haliaeetus, which are a family of sea eagles that are found all around the world. They basically have this real broad wings that allow them to do lots of soaring and lots of plunging to get fish. All right, wrong way. All right, I might need some guidance here. Okay, I got it. There's a little roll bar. Did you use this?
No, this one. Just push that once and it should do it.
Okay. So the bald eagle is a species that's distributed throughout North America. It can be found in pretty much any place that has open water. So lakes, reservoirs, creeks, swamps, open ocean, any place that you can find that basically has fish, there's a chance you're going to see eagles. And one of the really neat things about them is that they have this real different plumage as they mature. So anyone know what age this bird is?
3.
Well, I'm going to go through these real quickly because you guys seem to know your birds already. So this nice chocolate brown, when you see a bird, there's no real distinguishing features. All you see is brown, but you know it's an eagle. Best chance is it's a first-year bird or a hatch-year bird is what we call it. They're just a real chocolate brown. And they typically have the longer wing and tail feathers that help them when they're first learning to fly. And as they get older and they molt in their feathers in the second and third year, those feathers start to shrink in. So they're about the same size as they are when they're an adult. When they enter into their second year, they start molting in a whole lot of white feathers. So the overall impression of this bird is just a lot of white, but there's no real distinctive features. You're not looking at a white head or a white tail or a white breast. You're just kind of looking at kind of a lot of mottled white. But once they reach the 3rd year age, which you guys identified, you start to see a lot more blonde. Sometimes they'll even have a lot more white cap on the top. And then you also notice this white belly is real distinctive. They'll have what we call a brown bib here on the chest. And the tail, can't really tell anything about the tail. There's not a good picture of the back here, but they often have a big white patch on their back. So once they reach the 4th year, they start molting in those white feathers that we normally associate with adults. This bird is really interesting because it's got a little bit of black mottling on the tail. Still has kind of a dirty head. Same thing with these, real dirty. Notice that the eye is real light colored, although most of the time you wouldn't get close enough to an eagle to see the color of its eyes. But once they reach the adult phase, they've got a really nice, bright yellow bill, nice, bright yellow eyes, and the plumage of the head and the tail is just very clean. That should be your first impression, is there's nothing distinctive about it except that it's really nice and bright. So the species of the bald eagle is found throughout North America, as I mentioned before, basically anywhere where there's water. And you probably wonder down here in Arizona, down in the desert where there's water, but eagles are very adaptable. They live in a variety of different habitats, urban areas, botanical gardens like this. There's nests up in the DC area, there's nests down in Florida that are on cell phone towers and baseball fields and all kinds of places. So they've really adapted well to human encroachment. But we've got, birds nesting all the way out in the islands out here, and the range all the way down here in Florida, down in Baja. So they're pretty widely distributed. You could probably see them most places in the U.S. And now that they have really come back from their decline with DDT back in the 60s and 70s, you're more likely to see them, just flying overhead pretty much anywhere in Virginia. I have them flying over my house in urban Williamsburg all the time. Another thing is that the birds here, they're all one species. So a lot of people kind of talk about the different species or populations. It's all one species. But depending on how they're migrating, they have different objectives, and depending on where they are in that breeding range. So if they're breeding, say, in northern Alaska, they're going to be moving differently than birds that may be breeding in Florida. And their movements are going to depend on, are they breeding birds or are they not breeding birds? Are they birds that are maybe 3 years old that don't have to be tied down to a nest? And so they may not need to worry about sticking around a nest year-round, so they're able to go out and breed, to migrate, sorry. Also, depending on where the location of the breeding site is, that may affect how they migrate. Their age, if it's a bird, it's a hatcher bird, so a bird that just came out of the nest, they pretty much have no obligations. They're not looking for a territory right off the bat, so they're going to be migrating and moving a lot more than a bird who's maybe 4 years old or an adult who's going to be looking more seriously about trying to find a place to settle down. And then also the food availability where the eagle is. So a place like the Botanical Gardens that has food year-round, it's unlikely that the pair here would ever leave the nest for long periods of time. They wouldn't migrate. But a pair that's maybe breeding up in Canada that's going to get a lot of snow, those birds are going to migrate down here. So looking back at the distribution map, we've got what I think are 4 major flyways of eagles in North America. Where Jim is in Oregon, he's probably seen birds coming down from Alaska, British Columbia, coming down into Seattle, Washington and Oregon and Northern California. So those birds are coming down in the fall, escaping the snow. Same thing with birds in the plains provinces here of Canada, coming down into Yellowstone and coming down into Glacier National Park. And as far south here is southern Colorado. And those birds are specifically searching out spawning fish, so a lot of salmon and other fish, which you may talk about too. And then I think there's one person here from Indiana I spoke to. So they've got birds coming down from these other provinces here in Canada that are following the Mississippi River down, and they're looking for places that are not frozen over, looking for fish, fish that maybe getting stuck in dams and things like that, getting stunned. And some of the birds make as far down as Louisiana. You know, there's some band returns that have gotten all the way down there. And then where we are, we've got birds coming from the maritime provinces of Canada that are coming down the Atlantic coast to the Chesapeake Bay, and sometimes farther south than that. But today I'm going to be focusing on that Chesapeake Bay area. Now in the springtime, all those northern populations are going to go back to where they came from. But then we also have the birds that are from these southern areas who are then going to start migrating. They do their own movements. So we've got birds coming from the north, and now we've got birds coming from the south. So they're going back, following the fish and the water opening back up after the ice melts. And here along the Atlantic coast where we are, we've got a very large population of eagles in Florida. And those birds are coming up here to the Chesapeake Bay and also farther north. And that's actually where I started my eagle research, is in Florida. And we put a bunch of satellite transmitters on birds down there. And we know that over half of them are coming to the Chesapeake Bay for the summertime.
This is Libby and Reese. Do you guys mind if I post your presentations on YouTube?
Yes, that's fine.
Reese, okay?
Yep.
Thank you.